Hi, Robin and Nilda and the colleagues of NRI. Congratulations for 20th anniversary. So my name is Isami Kinoshita. Now as a professor at Otsuma Women's University. Last year I retired from Chiba University. For today's presentation, I invited young scholars, Charlie and Mariia, who are the last PhD student when I taught at Chiba University. Could you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Mitsunari Terada. I'm research fellow at Chiba University, and I'm also a member of IPA Japan.
Hello, my name is Mariia. I'm really grateful to be here today, and thank you for this opportunity to speak.
And actually, we met in Isami Kinoshita Labo, and we get married 2 years ago.
Yeah, good. Okay, this time, I invited them because I am now retiring, fading out, and they were young scholars. So next generations, yeah, that my successors, yeah. And if they could collaborate with NRI young scholars and so. This time my presentation across generations, 3 generations play map and so then so generations, so old generation to young generation. At first the background, when I started 3 generations play maps in 1980. That time I was a PhD student, like Charlie and Mariia, such a generation. And that time I worked as a play leader for Mother's Initiative group, doing adventure play using at vacant lot, rough ground like that. And the vacant lot also nature is a very important place for kids to touch in the nature. But the city, Setagaya, had kindly offered to make a playground, but we wanted to keep the rough ground. Unfortunately, we lost because the neighbors liked the modern playground paved by artificial surface with a ready-made play equipment. So it became like, it looks like a natural surface. No, that is artificial. We cannot dig a hole and any natural plant could not come. Yeah, and our activities also fell down, and so children this environment became more interesting for kids to adventure play. And so the transformation of the environment like that, according to time, civilization, and losing nature, and the child play environment also richness was decreased. Yeah. Then we got an idea to make the interview to 3 generations. The old generation who were against our activities of adventure plays like neighbors. And the mother's group, the middle generation. And so the third generation, the current, at that time, the children. So made interview to them. And to the old generations, so most people, the neighborhood associations, who are against mother's activities, adventure play. And then mothers asked me to visit them and to do the interview because they had a conflict and each other. Yeah, they understand such a Japanese so old traditional community, and so and I was so young, therefore so mothers were strong. Yeah. I had to do such kind of so family, the old boss, yeah, big boss of the neighborhood association. It was difficult to do the interview, I visited 3 times. Yeah, but in that way, we could know and such conflict was released from that kind of process of the interview, talking, and so on. Of course, older generations who were asked their childhood, remembering so many things. Also, that it took 2 hours and or sometimes a half day, and so the memories also make their face change. So that was funny and so interesting. I learned many things on that from that interviews. And children at that time was easy to find, yeah. And on the street, and we met, and they brought them to our office. But now, could you imagine? It is very difficult to do because if we do such kind of thing, police will come. Yeah. And so in that way, society has changed. Oh, that time I was so young, like Charlie and Mari. Yeah. And so as I told, such memories, so remind them their childhood, and some people brought pictures and like that. It's a individual map. Or at first generation in that time, 1930s, and the left side is the middle generations, and now that time 1955, and the third one 1982. We collected such individual play biographies like that with map, and collecting those play biographies, and from 20 people's interviews each generation, and made such a map. This map has shown and at that time of 1920 to 30s of old generation. So you can see more nature, the rivers, and you can catch fishes. And from the stories, the narratives, so the best 5 of the play, and this is an element of nature, yeah. Nature play, and the tag game, play instrument, and this. So, and this was the parents then, middle generation. That time of the 1960s, collecting 20 people's interview also. And so illustrated with the narratives, and so the river became polluted. Yeah, nature changed, and that time 1982, and the children so lost natural place. All the so river was covered, no more water stream, and then natural environment. So it's a very tiny element. And mostly children playing on the street. And that time we made the interview to 20 kids, and one of them became mother that wanted to do similar research to make the 4th generation play map. And in that way we did. And could you see the change from that time? Oh, no. From that time to here. So street play on the street disappeared. And in that way, from this graph, you can see the change from the first generation to 2006 combined questionnaire research. And so the street, this color shrunk, yeah. And today, most part of children's plays in the space at home and the school. And vacant lots was an important place for children to contact with nature. Also disappeared. And so many changes, and so you can see from this diagram. And therefore, we continued such a survey to make the interview. Furthermore, 100 people in 1984, and they published the illustrated book of three generations. And at that time, we discussed and gotten such a concept. And the environment usually we say is composed of physical environment and social environment, but from the interview to the people, the memories and so on, and the imagination, yeah. And the children were very rich in the imagination. But according to the people become older, so we lose such imagination, childhood. That imagination to revitalize old generation and reminds them of their childhood. It was a very funny, very important. That also could get understanding from about the children's environment. So that the idea to imaginative world and so to be revitalized from such kind of interview of childhood play biographies. And then through that sense of place, sense of community could be revitalized. And so the society could do such a management of the environment is important. And so what is a social environment, social world we call? And this old man has shown rabbits play for people. What was funny on the street. There are many such kind of things on the street that time. And then children could play on the street in 1980s. From late 1980s, that's changed. So now not so many kids playing on the street. And the imaginative world also that kind of so imagine role play you can see. It's a very important factor for children to play, and so that kind of such places of garbage place and the furniture. Also that good place for kids, a rich environment for kids to revive their imagination. And 2007, we at that time we made the interview, and the children could not do play on the street anymore. They were restricted. And one thing was the car traffic. The other thing was such stranger dangers. And they were strangers. And so they, for safety, they were said not to play on the street. And then one from the interview, this girls created stranger danger tag game by themselves. That is a work of imagination. So therefore, so to work on imagination is very important. And it is obvious that three worlds become disjoined under the modernization, seeking fast and convenient society of material. We found that mostly the imagination has been shrunk. Then we sought to work on the imagination of the people. And then, so this is a project to make tiny nature place, like a vacant lot, yeah, not the artificial playground. And then we got an idea, such kind of project. But the neighbors were against it. Insect, green and autumn leaves and the muddies and so on. And from the process of the workshop. And finally, so we did the event, just a temporary event, planting flowers with kids and the laughter. And Mr. Yamaguchi, the neighbor, who was strongly against this project, because the neighbor, he watched our activities, and he realized so from the reaction of kids, the face, and so children were very much pleased and so funny, and so very in such a kind of atmosphere is very happy. And he changed his mind, might be. And after that, every day he is cleaning this place and giving water to flowers and so on. That changed, yeah. Such a so work on the imagination. That's one example. And from this success story, the other neighborhood wanted such kind of tiny pocket park. This, as the name of the pocket park, this place became the first project area of the small pocket park in the community design. And the 15 pocket parks was built. And the other example of the such kind of work on imagination. This is also the project Greenway. And as I told that water stream was covered. And this project to revive water stream. Yeah. But the neighbors were against. Oh, this failure. So many people were against. Oh, then, so I worked for the meeting every month, and so for and against together, and they make a workshop like that. And it took 2.5 hours, half years, 2.5 years. And through the process, the all the generation stood the organizer Green Thumb group to plant so flowers, edible plant with kids. That is a good for kids to touch nature. Also, even those tiny places. It was also a good example, I think, from the process, work on the imagination, the connect all the generation to young generation. Okay, so I changed my talk to Charlie and Mariia.
Let us take the floor to report on the current situation of children's play in rural areas. We want to report on several surveys because rural areas are depopulated. We observe consolidation of schools. For example, in Ishikawa town, 6 schools become 1, and in Minakami town, 3 schools become 1, which means that children have to commute longer way from their home to school and change their transportation from walk to school bus. And basically how we conduct the survey is that we collaborate with local school and give enquetes to children who bring these enquetes to home and let their parents and grandparents fill out the questionnaire together. So we get 3 generations data.
Yes.
So regarding playtime, we see that the playtime, especially outdoor play, is decreasing across generations. And nowadays children looks like office worker.
Yes.
Well, because they go out only on weekends. And throughout the week they are staying home. And you see that outdoor playtime, which is 0 days, it's over 60% among children right now. Well, number of playmates is also decreasing, and we see that children currently, 30% of them don't have friends to play with. Well, it must be lonely. And we are associating this with the means of transportation and this school consolidation process. So, because when you walk, you can get to know your classmates, you walk together and you can play, hang out.
Yes, well, nearby.
Yes, but when you go by school bus, then you kind of isolated, and by car. Play spaces are getting limited to private space, like inside your house and around your house. So this kind of institutionalized space, also like park, is the only place where children go currently. But previous generation, they enjoyed non-institutionalized spaces like forests, rivers, fields. Play environment where people live, it's changing. Streets. Before, streets were open for play because there were not so many cars, but currently cars are making it really dangerous to stay on the street. Forest. In rural areas before, people from the village manage the forest in order to cultivate and get some resources. But currently, forests are abandoned and they are full of wild animals.
And actually bears comes to the housing area last
bears
year.
Coming out from the mountains and scare the remaining villagers. Farmland is also changing. So before they cultivated with the natural tools, but right now they do it with the technique and fertilizers, which make little berries dangerous to eat. And river, whereas before you can access the river and use it as a play space, currently it's covered with the concrete walls, and even it's not so easy to reach the water at the first place.
Yeah, we also need to care about natural disaster at the same time.
Yes. In Anket, some questions dedicated to what is the most popular play. We see that play tag is a popular among all generations. It's always in the top 3. However, we see that game is going over any type of play, and video game is the most popular currently. And regarding nature play experiences, we literally can see how it's shrinking across 3 generations, where grandparents and parents go out to catch insects, eat wild plants and berries, even do fire play and go to forests and mountains alone by themselves. Then nowadays children, we see that, first of all, they don't have enough of these experiences compared to previous generation. And even if they do fire play, or even if they go to the river, they go together with their parents, with adults, and almost don't go there alone.
So we can say that adult is really important for encouraging children to play in the nature. So now we can see this scenery in the park. So is this outdoor play? What do you think?
Do they play video game?
Yes, they are playing Nintendo Switch, which can bring everywhere. So everywhere can be the place for games. So I hope children don't recognize playlights become like this. So outdoor play might be one of the endangered activity, or outdoor play
like
kits are endangered species. So maybe we need to register at WWF. So based on this kind of survey, we feel we need to take action. We observe that children's play spaces are so limited currently. So before, children can play many places in the area, but currently it's limited only inside the house and park. So their territorial arrangement is really limited.
And Kinoshita sensei just mentioned how this park looks like.
So we kind of make new definition, Bio-Playtope. So Bio-Playtope, bio means nature plus biographies, which Isami already explained before. So we need to sustain play culture in the area and also nature elements in the area. So through biographical approach, we create playful environment contacting with nature across generations. So you can see the diagram on the left side. So we try to put the elements in the community to the playground where children can easily recognize and can play. So this playground can be the place where can sustain the play knowledges or memories, and also encouraging people together. And from here, they can also spread around and play their natures in the area. So how to create Bio-Playtope? So as Isami mentioned, we need to collect many play biographies in the area. So we conducted interviews around 40 people.
60 hours.
By 3 people. So this kind of biographies cannot be uploaded on Google Map because no one uploads, right?
And there is no place to upload them there.
Yep. So we need to really listen and listen and listen to conservate this kind of information, how to communicate with nature or how to communicate with human in the area through the play. So based on this kind of interview, we put into the playground. So the case study in Ishikawa town, Fukushima is like this. So first we ask their play biographies in the area or in the site, and we make place where children can play like before. So children can naturally sustain their memories. And actually they are so excited to play, so they might can sustain this kind of play. We also created the playground based on these biographies in the area, so children can naturally play. This is a case study of Minakami town, Gunma. We created the place where 3 generations can be in one place and can transmit play knowledges. We ask elder people who support us a lot, and he make bamboo toys this time. Actually, he hasn't done for 17 years, but he remember how to create it. So we supplies a lot. This is also the playground where is local people, biographies, but in the modern context where children can enjoy. So this kind of place, children can easily gather, play together.
Well, still it's kind of a struggle to bring them directly into nature. So we have to start really from small
the place
steps.
where easily.
Yes, and that's why you see it's kind of clean place.
But of course, people don't know why these kind of places are created. So we make BioPlay information card to tell children and parents how people play in this area before, kind of showing biographies of each generation. So childhood play map can be also the information in the area. So we can use this kind of information to apply Bio-Playtope as a playground.
And give people the idea that all of these mountains, rivers, and agricultural land is also a place for play, because currently they don't have such an image of these places.
The imagination be a good element. And also play biography inspires the older generation to remind of their childhood. And so memory, imagination. The importance of imagination can refer the Edith Cobb's book, The Ecology of Imagination in Childhood. So our story, also similar things we can find in her book. So this book was translated in Japanese by Miwako Kurosaka, and now good friends, mine, and Robin also, yeah. And she, when she edited a new book, Foster Children's Imagination and Creativity in Japanese, inviting Robin and me, yeah. And we wrote an article. And for the NRI 20th anniversary in the history, this kind of event had happened. I wanted to share. And also imagination and creativity, very important points of stories. And so again, from back to the diagram, so that to work on the imagination. And so that's kind of approach of biographical approach to might be one of the method to recreate children's play environment. And the memories of all the generation, to involve all the generation, cross generation, from older generation to young generation, to connect to the people, and that kind of intervention, encouraging kids to contact with nature, to be, I think, the effective, one of the effective activities. Then we can make a Bio-Playtope. So in such way, and some interventions to intentionally take children outdoors may now be needed to promote children's play. So in that way, work on imagination through human contact. It will become Bio-Playtopia, we hope. That is our presentation. Thank you very much.
ありがとうござい
Thank you.
ます。